Today, I'm going to be giving you 7 keys to maximize your focus. This is really important because if you look at what is happening with humans, we are getting more and more distracted. Over the past 15 years, basically since the iPhone came out and since we started using smartphones a whole lot more, the average person, their attention span has gone down about 33%. That's crazy. Let me say this one more time. Your average person that is alive right now in this world, their attention span has gone down 33% in the past 15 years. And so for me, I'm always looking for a way to set myself apart from everybody else, to stand out, to kind of be a superhuman among humans. And if I can make my focus superhuman focus compared to other people, I will get more done than them. And if I get more done than everybody else, and we fast forward 5 years, 10 years from today, it's a completely different life trajectory, like a different path that I am on than someone else, and there's no catching up. And so if you're out there and you're wanting to improve yourself and make yourself better, your focus is one of the most important things you could do, the energy that you have and the focus that you bring to something. And so what I'm going to teach you today is 7 different keys to maximize your focus. Some of these things you've heard of before, some of the things you've never heard of before, but in writing the book that I have coming out, I've been researching this like crazy and I want to give you some tips. So number 1, kind of obvious, but I'm going to give you some extra stuff, is to stay away from your phone as long as possible. From the moment that you wake up, try to stay away from your phone as long as possible. The one thing that I have realized is that when I look at my phone, there is Rob that exists before he looks at the phone each day, and there is Rob that exists after he looks at the phone each day. It is like that thing ruins my focus. And so what I try to do is I have my phone that is on airplane mode. And so you can either do one of 2 things. Either number 1, you can have your phone and have it be on airplane mode and have it be your alarm, or buy an alarm clock and have those on the other side of the room so you physically have to stand up to go and turn them off. But what I noticed is before I ever put my phone in airplane mode before I went to bed at night, I would wake up to turn my phone off and I would have all of these text messages, all of these emails, all of these notifications of things that I had to do. And it immediately went into holy shit stress mode. When you have your phone on airplane mode or do not disturb, or however you prefer to do it, you don't get all of those notifications. So you can turn your alarm off if you still have your alarm on your phone. And then what you do is you don't look at your phone for as long as possible. For some of you guys, it might be 30 minutes. For some of you guys, it might be an hour. For me, it's about 2 hours. So I like to get 2 hours in the morning before I ever look at my phone. So I can do my morning routine. I have my very specific morning routine. It is a routine. It doesn't feel right if I don't do it anymore. And so it's the routine of, waking up, going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth, coming outside to the living room and the kitchen and getting my glass of water, drinking my glass of water with the electrolytes that I have, going onto the couch, meditating for 20 minutes, and then going and making my coffee. And making my coffee, I'll start reading and drinking coffee for about an hour and a half. And then I'll look and see what the hell's going on in the outside world. But what I like to do is to not look at my phone for as long as possible, because I have found that allows me to be proactive in creating the life that I want to versus reactive. And then you start to think about, how many times do I look at the phone throughout the day? The average person, it's over 150 times per day they look at their phone. How many times do notifications go off and all of the things that are on your phone? Studies have found that not looking at your phone actually relieves you from a lot of stress and anxiety, because studies have found that looking at your phone on a smaller screen close to your face actually causes more stress and anxiety. Man, that's pretty wild. And so how can we not look at our phone as much as possible? Your phone is an amazing piece of technology, but you have to be the master of it. You can't let it be the master of you. And so stay away from your phone as long as possible. And when you're trying to be very focused, put your phone in a different room so that it can't even distract you. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to prepare your brain. The hell does that mean? How do you prepare your brain? Your brain just does not like switching tasks. It's switching tasks uses more energy, and that energy can feel bad. And so what happens is for the first 6 minutes on average, when you switch a task, there will be resistance to switching that task. It's like a warm-up period. When you go into the gym, you don't just lift heavy. You should warm up a little bit. Same thing for your brain. You need to warm up to this new task. The easiest way for me to go and switch into a new task is to do 6 deep breaths. I just breathe in through my nose, breathe out through my mouth, and I am preparing my brain to go into this task switching. And then what I do is I do one thing and one thing only. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But try to prepare your brain to go from, okay, like from this, what we're going to do is, I'm going to go from recording these podcast episodes to immediately recording reels. That's okay. That's not really much of a task switch for me, that recording a podcast episode, talking inside of a microphone and talking to, the 3 cameras that we have here, to then recording Instagram reels. That's not really much of a task switch for me. But after I get done here, I have calls I have to hop on. And so that's a task switch. It's my brain being a little bit different, having to be a little bit more nimble. So I'll do 6 deep breaths before I go into my calls so that I can make it easier on my brain to be able to switch tasks. And so the second thing to do to make you more focused is to prepare your brain. Third thing, please do this. It drives me crazy when I have people that don't do this. Eliminate as many distractions as possible. Your phone has so many notifications. Like if you're one of those people, every time somebody likes something on Instagram or sends an email or sends a text message or whatever it might be, eliminate as many of those as you possibly can from your phone. The things like if you don't have to see when an email comes in, turn that notification off. I usually check my email twice a day. It's in the morning and in the evening. Maybe you have that opportunity to do that. Maybe you don't. But try to prepare your life to eliminate as many distractions as possible. On your computer, if it's not necessary for you to get email notifications, turn your email notifications off. Because studies have found that one distraction, like if you're sitting there and you're typing out, a presentation, and you get an email notification, even if you just look up into the top right corner of your screen and see, okay, Jonathan sent me an email, I probably have to send him an email back when I get done with this. That one distraction can take anywhere, if you were focused and then you looked at that notification and then went back to trying to focus, it can take you anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes to get back the focus that you had before. So just by looking for 2 seconds at an email notification, it stole 15 to 20 minutes of your productivity. So what can you do to remove as many distractions as people? So you have notifications, you have your email, you have your computer, you have your phone. You also have other people. What can you do to be able to remove other people as distractions? If people come up to you, if you work in an office where it's open concept and people can come up to you and they can talk, can you put on headphones? Can you put headphones on and let people know that when you have headphones on, like prepare them. When I have headphones on, unless it's an emergency, don't come and talk to me. If you have an office, can you close the door, put a sign on the door and say, doing focused work, do not open the door unless it's an emergency. Send me an email, I'll check it later on today. And what you do is you eliminate as many distractions as possible from your life to make it easier to focus. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to stop multitasking. There's actually been a lot of studies that found that multitasking makes you dumber. In multitasking, they found that people who do multitask, they do one thing and they do another thing, actually makes their productivity way worse than those people who do not. The people who do not are called single taskers. You do single tasking. You do one thing and you do one thing only. Because they found, I just told you, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to prepare your brain to get back to where it was before. To go from one task to another task, you actually get what's called a cognitive switching penalty. Cognitive switching penalty, which means your brain is not going to be working at 100% when you switch from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, to another, right? Like if you're making a sandwich and listening to a podcast, not really a big deal. But if you're preparing a presentation and doing emails at the same time, your presentation and your emails are going to both be worse than if you were just do one of them at a time. And so number 3 is to stop multitasking. Number 4 is to go old school and have a notepad and pen with you. And what you do is whenever you have any sort of ideas, if it's a to-do list, if it's an amazing idea about something that you need to add to, or a conversation you need to have with somebody, whatever it might be, you just write it down in pen and paper. And you just write it down. You don't put it in your phone, because when you put it in your phone, you can get distracted by other things. You write it down, you go old school, pen and paper. The good thing about that is when it's on pen and paper, and you go back to whatever it is that you were doing, you come back to that pen and paper, you can actually use that pen and paper to now make a plan, right? And so I always say, like, if you're trying to figure out a complex math problem, it's really hard to figure it out in your head. But if you could get pen and paper, it makes it a lot easier. Well, if you're trying to figure out complex life decisions, business decisions, whatever it is that you need to do, it's going to be really hard to figure it out in your head. But if you can have a notepad, pen and paper with you, it makes it much easier to do that. And so number 4 is to make sure you have a notepad and pen close by at all times. Number 5, my favorite one, put on headphones. Whenever you're trying to get focused, have headphones on and have a specific song that you listen to. I've been saying this for years, probably been about 4 years now. I listen to the exact same song every time I sit down to get focus work done. It is the exact same song. It is a 3-hour song that if you go onto YouTube and you search Focus Binaural Beats on YouTube, it is the one that says focus on it, and it is like a neon owl. I listen to that every single time. When I was planning today's podcast episodes, I listened to that song. I listened to it over and over again. There's no words to it, but I have actually started to classically condition my brain to when I hear that song, my brain's like, oh, yeah, that means we're about to focus. And so the same way that Pavlov's dogs, he would ring a bell and then they give him a treat, ring a bell, give him a treat over and over and over and over again. And eventually he rang a bell and they would have actually, their mouth would just salivate, was because their brain was actually expecting the treat right after. So I'm trying to do the exact same thing with my brain with the sound of that song, literally telling my brain, okay, hey, now we're going into focus work. And so number 5 is use headphones. Bring headphones with you everywhere. I always have my headphones with you. I always have my headphones with me, and they are noise canceling headphones, so I can't hear almost anything else that's happening outside of my own head. That's number 5. Number 6 is to use the Pomodoro technique. Super simple. I've said it a million times in this podcast. It is the best thing that I've ever found for getting focus work done. And that is 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And in the Pomodoro technique, there's a lot, and it's going to be in my book when my book comes out. There's a ton of different things that I have inside of this, of research they've done around the Pomodoro technique and why it works so well for humans. Actually, when you look at the neurobiology of humans and the way that we work, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. In those 25 minutes, you do one task and one task only. You set a timer. I have a timer that's on my desk for 25 minutes. And it goes off after 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. In that 5-minute break, you don't look at your phone. You don't do any of that stuff. What you do is you go outside, you get some sun on your skin if you can, and you just kind of, or what you do is you close your eyes for 5 minutes and just do some deep breathing. It's a whole lot of reasons why. I don't have time to describe all of the reasons why this works so well, but the Pomodoro technique is the best technique that psychologists have ever found for people to be focused on one thing to get a task done. You do one thing and one thing only. You bring 100% of your brain power to that one task for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And you do 3 rounds of it, which is an hour and a half total, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. You do an hour and a half, and then you take a 20-minute break. And then you can go back into it. But in that Pomodoro technique, you can only focus on one task. If you have a big task, that might be the same task, and just taking bite-sized pieces of that task each 25 minutes, okay? And number 7, this one is super important for you to be able to figure out your focus, okay, is to rate your focus every hour on a scale of 1 to 10. So when you're trying to be productive, rate your focus on a scale of 1 to 10 every single hour. Therefore, you know what works, and you also know what doesn't. You know what works, but you also know what doesn't. You also start to find out at what times of the day do I have the most focus, and at what times of the day do I not have as much focus. And then what you can do is start to plan your day out depending on what your focus is like, depending on what your energy is like throughout the day. So like for me, I know that I always plan my podcast episodes when I have the time frame that I know I have the most focus throughout the day. And usually that's from about 11 o'clock until 2 p.m. In those 3 hours, if I'm going to plan out my podcast episodes, I want to bring 100% of my brain, as much of my brain as I possibly can, to that task. And so I don't do it at 9 o'clock at night when I'm tired and I've had a long day. I don't do it at 7 o'clock in the morning when I'm just chilling and wanting to read and wanting to journal instead. I do it when my brain has the most focus. When I personally, because you have different focus times throughout the day that are different than mine. And so if you can figure out, just do this for a week, every hour, from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m., you just have an alarm that goes off and you just rate your focus on a scale of 1 to 10. You're going to actually start to see patterns of when you have the most focus and when you have the least amount of focus, and start to plan your day out depending on how much focus you have at certain times of the day. So that is how you be more focused. Those are the 7 tips to be more focused. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. I always love seeing how many of you guys share this every single day and how many people actually spread this message, which is awesome because whenever you guys share it, it allows more people who have never heard of this podcast to find it. So I would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you would share it. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to teach you how to bring out the best in everyone else around you. And I'm going to give you 5 tips. If you're a leader, if you're a parent, if you have a spouse or someone that you're in a relationship with, these tips are going to help you bring out the best in the people that you love. Let's dive in. Number 1, I want you to find reasons to recognize the people around you versus reasons to reprimand them. So instead of finding what's wrong, start challenging yourself to find what's right. You know, I said in the last podcast episode, the average child is reprimanded 8 times more than they're praised growing up. And so, for instance, if your, significant other doesn't do the dishes and you just want them to do the dishes, I promise you this, if you just start yelling at them, it's not going to make them want to do the dishes. But next time your significant other, next time your husband puts a dish away, say, oh my God, thank you. And they'll do it in a condescending way. Oh my God, you did such a good job putting it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I worked really hard today and I appreciate you putting some of the dishes away. People want to be recognized. It is ingrained in us to want to be recognized by other people. People love words of affirmation, and positive reinforcement always does better than negative reinforcement. And it's crazy because, when I was a child, it seemed like a lot of people train their dogs with negative reinforcement. A lot of people train their children with negative reinforcement. And now psychology has shown us that positive reinforcement works better on humans and it also works better on dogs if you want them to do something that you want them to do. And so it's really important that we start tuning ourselves to find reasons to recognize people, to give them love, to give them words of affirmation. And if this isn't something that you normally do, it's going to be hard for you to find things. But just go throughout your day. I remember years ago when I was really bad at this, I was like, I'm going to try to give a compliment to as many people as I possibly can when I go out. So I'd go to Starbucks and I'd see someone, they had a nice necklace. I'd be like, oh my gosh, your necklace is so nice. I like that. And everyone's like, oh my God, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Because people just aren't used to being recognized. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to teach you how to bring out the best in everyone else around you. And I'm going to give you 5 tips. If you're a leader, if you're a parent, if you have a spouse or someone that you're in a relationship with, these tips are going to help you bring out the best in the people that you love. Let's dive in. Number 1, I want you to find reasons to recognize the people around you versus reasons to reprimand them. So instead of finding what's wrong, start challenging yourself to find what's right. I said in the last podcast episode, the average child is reprimanded 8 times more than they're praised growing up. And so, for instance, if your, significant other doesn't do the dishes and you just want them to do the dishes, I promise you this, if you just start yelling at them, it's not going to make them want to do the dishes. But next time your significant other, next time your husband puts a dish away, say, oh my God, thank you. And they'll do it in a condescending way. Oh my God, you did such a good job putting it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I worked really hard today and I appreciate you putting some of the dishes away. People want to be recognized. It is ingrained in us to want to be recognized by other people. People love words of affirmation, and positive reinforcement always does better than negative reinforcement. And it's crazy because, when I was a child, it seemed like a lot of people train their dogs with negative reinforcement. A lot of people train their children with negative reinforcement. And now psychology has shown us that positive reinforcement works better on humans and it also works better on dogs if you want them to do something that you want them to do. And so it's really important that we start tuning ourselves to find reasons to recognize people, to give them love, to give them words of affirmation. And if this isn't something that you normally do, it's going to be hard for you to find things. But just go throughout your day. I remember years ago when I was really bad at this, I was like, I'm going to try to give a compliment to as many people as I possibly can when I go out. So I'd go to Starbucks and I'd see someone, they had a nice necklace. I'd be like, oh my gosh, your necklace is so nice. I like that. And everyone's like, oh my God, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Because people just aren't used to being recognized out in public. It's usually just like very cold, just conversations that we have with each other versus being like, oh my gosh, I really love your necklace. Oh, thank you. Oh, your name is such a cool name. What's that mean? Just try to figure out if you can find reasons to recognize people. If you have children, please just find reasons to recognize them. Because a lot of times I find that people try to mold their child in what they want them to be by negative reinforcement, right? So positive reinforcement always works over negative reinforcement. And it makes the person want to seek more of that positive reinforcement. So your husband's more likely to do the dish again if you recognize him for doing the dishes in a good way. So that's the first thing. Second thing, offer public recognition whenever you can. And make it natural. Don't force it. Don't seem condescending. Don't make an announcement, stand on top of your child takes out the trash. Don't stand on top of the counter and be like, Johnny took out the trash. We're so excited about it. Everybody, let's give him a round of applause. Don't make it condescending. Find a way to offer recognition. So if you're going to sit there in front of somebody, you're going to recognize somebody to their face. That's a good thing to do. But also if you can find ways to recognize when you can and make it not condescending, like I said. We, in every single all hands meeting where we have all of the people on the team come together, we ask people who has somebody that you want to recognize. And we just open it up every all hands meeting. Who has someone that you guys want to recognize? And somebody will go, oh, I want to recognize this person because they really stepped up and helped me with this week. I want to recognize this person because they stepped up and really helped me with this. People love being recognized for what they do and what they are. And so if you can offer more public recognition, and like for me the other day, my VP of operations, she's been absolutely crushing it. And I was like, hey, I just want to recognize her for this and how she's doing. And then everybody was like, yeah, she's doing such a great job. We love her. She's so amazing. It just makes people feel good. I don't know about you, but I just want to get better at trying to make people feel good. There's enough bad shit that's happening in the world. There's enough sad people. There's enough people that are in their own minds and, struggling with their own self-worth. Shouldn't we just try to recognize people a little bit more? So recognize them privately, but also try to recognize them publicly as well. That's the second thing. Number 3 is to start modeling the way that you want them to be the lighthouse. It's really, really odd that some people will say, hey, I've heard so many people be like, oh yeah, my son has such a bad temper tantrum and we're trying to make him not have a bad temper tantrum. And then one of the parents has anger problems. And I'm like, where do you think they're getting it from? They didn't just pick it up one day on the side of the road. They're learning it from you. And so for you to be like, I'm going to try to fix my son's anger problem, but you've got anger problems, doesn't make any sense. You need to model the way that you want them to be the lighthouse. And so, the phrase of being the lighthouse, what that basically means is that you could either be the lighthouse, and what does a lighthouse do? It safely gets ships into the harbor. Or you could be like the tugboat. The tugboat goes out of the harbor, it gets one of the boats and it pulls them and uses all of its force to get them into the harbor. Most people try to be like the tugboat. Be this way. I want you to be this way. You should be this way. You should stop doing this. They make fun of people for things that they don't want them to do. Versus a lighthouse is like, hey, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be the truest version of myself. And I'm going to model what it looks like to be happy in this world, to be healthy, to be successful, to be positive, to be a good person. If you want your children to be good people, then just be a good person, because you can tell them what you want them to do. But if you're not doing it, they're paying way more attention to what you're doing and how you're acting in the world than anything else. It's like I never really understood for a really long time the phrase of Gandhi where it says, be the change that you want to see in the world. It's like, we can all look out into the world and say, this is wrong with the world, this is wrong with the world, this is wrong with the world. And there's a ton that's wrong with the world. But if we look at it, and I've challenged myself to do this as well, when I look at something and I'm like, I want the world to be different in this way. And then I ask myself, is there any of that lives in me? Is there that thing that I want to change? Is there any of that thing that I want to change that lives within me? Damn it, every single time. I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit of that lives inside of me. Okay, well, it's really hard to change other people. Like, you want to ask yourself, how hard is it to change other people? Think about how hard it is to change yourself, right? And so you're out there and you're like, well, I want the world to change in this way. Well, then you need to change in that way. Oh, I want the world to be more accepting. Okay, how accepting are you? Is there places where maybe you should accept people where you're not accepting them for some sort of reason? I'm sure there is in some way. Hey, real quick, I want to introduce you to something called Mindset Mentor Plus. If you love this podcast, you will absolutely love what I'm about to talk about. I designed Mindset Mentor Plus to help you actively integrate every one of these episodes into your life. And here's how it works. With every episode of this podcast that comes out, Mindset Mentor Plus subscribers get more. You're going to get multiple page, detailed, printable worksheets, effectively a mini masterclass that's way more in depth than just this podcast. They also come with journaling questions, challenges, assignments, and so much more, so that you're not just listening to these podcasts passively, but you're actively integrating them into your life. That way you improve much faster. I also do monthly Q&A sessions in there and much, much more. If you want to learn more about it, go to mindsetmentor.com or click the link that's down in the description. And so you have to be the change that you want to see in other people. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. You have to be the example that you want your children to be. Don't tell them what you want them to be. Show them what it's like to be that version of you. If you're not, your advice is just going to go in one ear and out the other. You need to be a good example of who you want other people to be in this world. If you're a parent, this is the most important thing that you can do. If you're a manager, if you have a company, if you have employees, don't tell them to do something that you're not willing to do first. Like I have a position in my company. And I won't talk about what the position is because I'll just tell you there's the lowest level of what somebody does in the company, and it wasn't going very well, and people weren't doing what at the quality of what they could. And I was like, for 2 weeks, I was like, I'm just going to do this role. I'm going to do this role and show people that it's not below me. There's no such thing as below somebody else. It's like, hey, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show, hey, this is how we do it. This is how we show up. This is how we show up for ourselves. This is how we show up for the team. This is how we show up for other people. I'm going to jump in. Do I have other things that I'm busy doing? Yeah, I'm busy as hell, but I'm going to do this because it's so important that we do this the right way. And that means a lot, especially to employees, to be like, wow, the CEO of the company is going to come in and actually work with us, get his hands dirty, and actually start doing the same thing. And so it's like, I think that shows a lot versus being like, hey, you all need to be better. You all need to do this differently. And so I just want you guys to understand, like, it's really important for us to step up and be like, hey, I'm not above anything. Nobody's above anything. I'm going to come down there. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to do it with you. We're all going to do it together. We're all a team. That's how it should be at a job. That's how it should be at a company. That's how it should be as a family. That's how it should be all across the board. And so that's number 3, is you got to make sure that you're just willing to be the person, like to model the way that you want other people to be. Otherwise, people are not going to do it, or they're really going to resist it. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4 is to give more people autonomy. Stop micromanaging people all the time. Give people power. Let them find it. Let them rediscover. The thing that and believe me, when I had my first company back when I was 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, I micromanaged like crazy because I didn't know what I was doing. And I was micromanaging people. And when you micromanage somebody and you question them and you question them and you question them, what ends up happening? They end up questioning themselves. And then they don't have any self-worth around the position or what it is that they're doing. You have to let them find their own power and start to allow them. Now, you still train them, you still help them, you still do quality control and all of that, whatever it might be, but you've got to give people the power to do it themselves. And then they start gaining their own confidence. I know we hired somebody a few months ago, and she kept coming to one of her managers, and she kept like having her work checked. And the manager was like, hey, you don't need to come to me to get your work checked. Like, I trust that you're going to get it right. And if you don't get it right, I'll help you get better at it. And she was like, oh my God, thank you so much. She's like, my last manager never trusted me for anything. Every single thing that I did, I had to go to him first. If I were sending an email to someone outside of the company, it had to be read by him first before it was ever sent out. And so she developed this feeling of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good enough to be able to do it. And we're like, no, we're about empowering people. Let's see if we can empower you in some sort of way. So give people more autonomy. Micromanaging them enables them to always need you, whether that's an employee, whether that's your child, versus building your own confidence or building their own confidence and trusting them to do what's right. Trust that they will 100% mess up at some point in time. So give them feedback and, give them a feedback sandwich. If you've never heard of a feedback sandwich, is you tell somebody the good, then you tell somebody the bad, and then you tell them good again. So it's like, hey, you're really doing well at this, da-da-da-da-da. One thing that I think that you could get better at is this right here, but overall, your quality of your work is getting better and better and better. And so it's like you get the feedback in there, but it's sandwiched between some good things as well. So that's the thing, like recognize what they did well, bring in what they can improve upon, and then recognize the other thing that they did well. And try to just build them up a little bit more. Don't micromanage them, give them some autonomy, let them grow into who they can be. And then number 5, which I said, in my opinion, is the absolute most important one, is don't try to change them. Try to love them for who they are. And so I want you to understand this. People already talk down to themselves enough. And I think that after talking with a lot of people who have lower self-confidence or who talk negatively about themselves, the amount that people talk down themselves is way more than the average person would understand. I think that if every person had a speaker connected to the side of their ear and it just broadcasts everything that they thought, you'd be like, oh my gosh, people are so mean to themselves. And so people are already talk down to themselves enough. If you really want to bring out the best in someone, learn to love them as they are. If you have children, stop trying to change your fucking children. I, as a coach, deal with people all the time and try to help them from when their parents didn't love and accept them and they kept trying to change them and they wanted them to do something different and they wanted them to do what they wanted them to do. You know, so many people are like, my mom wanted me to go to this school. She wanted me to go this job. And now I feel lost. I don't know who I am. I don't want to do this, but I'm also afraid my mom's not going to love me if I switch my job. Right? And so it's like, just start getting better at going, yeah, my son is into doing this. I'm going to love him for that as well. My daughter's into doing this. I'm going to love her for that as well. My employees are like this. This is how they are. My spouse is like this.
All you're hearing is there's something scary out there and we need technology to be able to survive and live. And that's the only story. Mm-hmm. I'm happy the technology is there. I'm a scientist. You know, I've worked in the high-tech world, but I think the missing piece is that we are empowered and we do have a personal responsibility to make the choices in our lives so that our bodies are at their best. And that's a difficult conversation because a lot of people don't want to and would prefer not to have that conversation, would prefer just to say, I want to live like I've always lived. Just give me whatever I have to have so that I can live like I've always lived.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we live in a big nation and a big world. My prayer is that we are all given the freedom to make those choices for ourselves rather than having those choices imposed upon us. And we all know what that means and what I'm talking about and where that's going. So it remains to be seen where it's going to end. But this is a conversation that's up for everybody. So what's happening, Rob, this is fascinating to me. We're taking topics that historically have been considered on the back burner. They've been considered academic at best or philosophical. And all of a sudden, they are now front and center in our lives because literally, not metaphorically, literally, our very survival depends upon our story and how we think about ourselves.
Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to teach you about the 4 different parts of your brain so that you can activate all of them at the exact same time so that you can achieve anything you want. Let's dive in. Today, I'm going to teach you about your brain, and by the end of this episode, you will understand your brain so much better, and you will have the tools to help you use your brain in basically any challenging circumstance that comes up. And when you look at your brain, I'm extremely intrigued by the brain because we are given the most incredible piece of machinery in the entire universe, but we have absolutely no manual on how to use this thing. Now, it doesn't mean that the manual doesn't exist and we can't go find it. It means that we're just not given it at birth. And so for me, I want to know how to use my brain to the best of my ability, the same way that I want to use my legs to the best of my ability. I want to use my arms to the best of my ability. And our brains are these incredibly complex organs, and the average person just doesn't know much about them, yet the brain completely runs their lives, runs what they think, runs their emotions. And so our brains do so much for us. They solve problems that are in our life. We create art with our brain. We experience joy with our brain. We experience anxiety with our brain. And it's really complex, but today I'm going to teach you about the 4 major parts of your brain. And if you know the 4 major parts of your brain, and how it's divided into those parts, which is the left thinking side of your brain, the left emotional side of your brain, and then the right thinking side of your brain and the right emotional side of your brain. You understand how each one of them work. It'll give you much more understanding of how you think, how you feel, why you feel, and then how to respond to the world around you. So whether you're navigating like something really challenging in a relationship, or you're trying to be creative, or you have something going on at work, or you just want to understand your emotional reactions, knowing how these four pieces of your brain work together is really going to help you kind of master the brain. So let's dive into it. Today's going to be really in depth. The first side that we're going to talk about is the left thinking side of your brain. And this side is often referred to as the analytical brain. The left side of your brain is called the analytical brain. And the left thinking side of your brain is responsible for your logic. It's responsible for your reasoning, for critical thinking. So when you're sitting there and like you have a math problem you need to figure out, or you're sitting down to write your book, or you're sitting down to plan your day, you're tapping into this part of your brain. You're tapping into the part of your brain that is the left thinking side of your brain, is the most analytical side of your brain. And it's in charge of processing language. It's in charge of logical thinking. It's in charge of understanding what someone is saying to you, also producing your speech. And so it's good for sequencing, for categorizing, for linear thinking. And it's the part of your brain that makes to-do lists, and it structures your day and structures your life logically. It's the part of your brain that does the math and the calculations and the balance sheet and thinks in facts and figures and numbers and very boop, 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 like very facts and figures. Like if you can't see me, I'm looking like a robot, where it's very like, I am analytical and I think only analytically. And that part of your brain, that is what it's really best at. So let me give you like a real life example. Let's say that your boss comes to you and gives you a task of developing a plan for a new project. And so you take this new project and you start breaking down the project into smaller tasks. And you take those tasks and say, who's going to take this one? Who's going to take that one? And you have, you assign deadlines to each task, and you organize the workflow, and you put the to-do list and everything together. This is the methodical part of your left thinking side of your brain. It helps you stay focused. It helps you get organized. It helps you be effective in achieving your goals. So that's the left thinking side of your brain. Now, there's also the left emotional side of your brain as well. And this is like the source of your motivation. This is the source of your positive emotions as well. So the left thinking side of your brain, the thinking part, deals with the logic and it deals with the structure. The left emotional side is responsible for processing your positive emotions. So this would be like happiness, this would be enthusiasm, this would be optimism. And it's the part of your brain that makes you feel motivated and socially engaged. And so it processes all of your emotions that are positive, right? This is the part of the brain that's active when you experience the positive emotions like joy and love and happiness. And when you're around other people, whether it's like, you get news of something and you feel joy after hearing that news and excitement about, something that you're going to be doing or something that you accomplished. That's the left emotional side. The other thing that it does is in charge of motivation and drive. And so this is why it's really important. Let me pause real quick for you guys to understand this. The reason why I'm going through these 4 parts is so you can start to know, okay, like what part of my brain is overactive, if possible, what part of my brain is underactive, and then I'm going to give you tools to how to actually strengthen each part of your brain. Where if you go, you know what, I don't have as much drive and motivation as I want, maybe I need to get this part of my brain to be stronger and start working at it. Okay, well now I've identified a weak point that I want to strengthen. So this part of your brain is in charge of your drive. It's in charge of your motivation. And it's what fuels your ambition and your desire to go and pursue goals. It's what keeps you going when you're like really passionate about something, and it gives you the emotional energy when you start to see things are getting tough, but you want to see them through. And so like if you look at this as like a real life example, if you think back to a time when you were working on something that you were really, really passionate about, something that like really excited you, and you had this sense of like enthusiasm and motivation for doing it, the eagerness to work hard, to dive into the task, that is the part of your brain that turns on, the left emotional side, where it's like, hell yeah, I'm so excited, I can't wait to do this. And this side also, what it does is it helps you connect with other people and stay optimistic and maintain a positive outlook when challenges arise. So if you're like, man, I'm not very driven and I'm not very positive, well, then you're probably going to want to work on the this side of your brain right here, which is the left emotional side of your brain. Hey, real quick, I want to introduce you to something called Mindset Mentor Plus. If you love this podcast, you will absolutely love what I'm about to talk about. I designed Mindset Mentor Plus to help you actively integrate every one of these episodes into your life. And here's how it works. With every episode of this podcast that comes out, Mindset Mentor Plus subscribers get more. You're going to get multiple page, detailed printable worksheets, effectively a mini masterclass that's way more in depth than just this podcast. They also come with journaling questions, challenges, assignments, and so much more, so that you're not just listening to these podcasts passively, but you're actively integrating them into your life. That way you improve much faster. I also do monthly Q&A sessions in there and much, much more. If you want to learn more about it, go to mindsetmentor.com or click the link that's down in the description. So that's how it will look, and that's the left side of your brain, okay? So that was the left thinking side, that was the left emotional side. And so I'm going to give you the other two, and then we're going to go through how to actually use each one of them and how to bring them together to make a very cohesive unit in your brain that's each one is working how they're supposed to be working. So let's go to those are both the left side. Let's go to the right side. Let's go to the right thinking side of your brain. This is where creativity comes from. This is where your intuition comes from, if you feel like you need to work on your intuition. So the right side of your brain is known as the creative brain. And that's what most people usually say. So left side, thinking and analytical, right side, creative. And so it's also responsible for seeing like the big picture, thinking outside of the box, and using your intuition to solve problems. And so the key functions of the right thinking side of your brain are creativity and imagination. So if you feel like you're not as creative as you used to be, okay, well, this is a part of your brain you might want to strengthen. So creativity and imagination, like sitting down and you have a blank canvas and you want to paint a picture, or sitting down to a blank Word doc and you're going, you know what, I'm going to write a story. Or coming up with say you're at work and you want a really innovative idea to conquer whatever task it is, or to come up with a way to get more sales in your business. Well, this is that side of your brain as well. This is the right thinking side of your brain that's in charge. It is the source of your artistic and inventive impulses. And so it's also really good at pattern recognition. It's good at spatial awareness. And it's really your intuition and your holistic thinking, looking at everything as a whole. So when you look at, for instance, the left thinking side of your brain, which we just spoke about a minute ago, that focuses on the details and the facts and the figures. The right thinking side of your brain is really good at looking at the whole picture and how everything is holistically connected. So it helps you make connections between things that might seem really unrelated and unrelated ideas, and then use your intuition to go, okay, what's the right decision to make here? And so if you look at this like in real life, imagine that you're at work. You have a new project and you're brainstorming ideas for this project. Instead of following the linear path, which would be the left side of the brain, instead of following that linear path, why don't we just let our thoughts flow really freely and have different concepts, try to connect different concepts in ways that we've never done before, and try to come up with really creative solutions. If you can do that, now you're bringing in the right side, the thinking part of your brain, the right thinking part of your brain, and that's what it looks like in action. So it enables you to think beyond conventional thoughts, conventional ideas, conventional structures, the box that we live in, and it just allows you to see outside of the box. So that's the right thinking side of the brain. The right emotional side of the brain is where your negative emotions are, but it's also where your empathy is. And so this side of the brain is associated with processing your negative emotions like fear, sadness, anxiety. And so you might sit there and go, man, I have a lot of fear, I have a lot of sadness, I have a lot of anxiety. Well, maybe I have a really, really strong right emotional side of my brain, and maybe I should start working on the other sides. And so this side of your brain is like I said, it's the negative emotions, it's the anxiety, it's the fear, it's the sadness, but it also is really important in empathy and understanding the emotions of other people as well. So when you look at this part of your brain, it's the negative emotion processing. So when you feel anxious about something or you experience sadness over a loss, that is your right emotional side at work. It's the part of your brain that is in charge of processing and responding to these challenging emotions. But it's also, like I said, empathy. Looking at the entire social world and everything that's out there and the structure and understanding other people. And so it's a really big part for understanding the feelings of other people and saying, I feel how you feel. And so that is very important. We don't want to turn this part of our brain off. It's also very important to understand that this is the part of your brain that's in charge of emotional memory. The right emotional side of your brain is linked to how we store and recall emotionally charged memories, especially those that were negative or very traumatic. And so if you look at it in like a real life application, like think about a time when, let's say you felt anxious about a difficult conversation that you had to have with somebody. Or you were worried about an outcome of some situation at work. Your right emotional side was likely the most engaged, which helped you kind of navigate those feelings. And at the same time, if you've also ever, with the empathy side of that brain, you say, okay, well, if you've ever had a friend that's going through something really tough and you comforted that friend who is going through that tough time, your ability to empathize and understand their pain is this side of the brain as well. And so those are the 4 parts of the brain, which is really important to understand before we go any further. And so let's talk about how all of them work together. It's important to understand each one of them, but it's also important to understand they rarely operate in isolation. So our brains are designed to integrate all of these functions and allow us to kind of respond to the world in a very balanced way. And so the way that you would integrate these in your life, let me just give you a quick example, right? Let's say that you need to make a really tough decision. Maybe your boss comes to you and says, hey, I want to move you to a new city and give you a raise. Well, then your left thinking side of your brain might sit there and start to think, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons? And it would analyze the logical aspects like salary and career growth. The right thinking side of your brain might consider how it aligns with your long-term dreams and your passions and what you want to create in your life. The left emotional side might feel excited. It might feel optimistic about a new opportunity. You're like, oh, this is going to be fun. And then the right emotional side of your brain might feel anxious about it at the same time, leaving a city that you grew up in and leaving your loved ones behind. And so it's important because people get so confused and they get so caught up in like, I'm thinking this and I'm really excited, but I'm also very anxious. I don't know how those two things can live at one time. Well, it's 2 sides of your brain working the exact same time. No big deal. That's just what you're designed to do. Okay, well, I'm also starting to think about logically, but I'm also starting to think about my passions and everything. These are the 4 parts of your brain working as one unit. So it's normal, and I want you guys to all understand this, it's normal to feel what seem like complete opposites of a spectrum. Oh my God, I'm so excited about this opportunity, and oh my God, this scares the shit out of me, and I have anxiety about leaving my house. Completely fine. Those are the 4 parts of your brain coming in to help you make a better decision. And so they help you to analyze the situation and look at it from many angles, which would be like logically, emotionally, intuitively, creatively. And this is why writing down your thoughts is so important. It's because there's kind of like 4 different people that live inside of you. And if you're like, oh my God, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do, perfect. That's exactly what it's supposed to be like. Put it down on a piece of paper because it's incredibly complex. There's 4 different brains basically working there at the same time. Writing down everything can help you process all of those parts of your brain so that you can make the best decision for you. This is also why it's really good to like when you're going to make a big decision in life or just any decision that's like, holds a little bit of weight to it, writing down like a pros and cons list. And being like, okay, if, like we did this when we were trying to figure out Lauren, when she was about to have the baby, she was 11 days over her due date. And we were going into the weekend. And because it was going into the weekend, our doctor wouldn't be there anymore. And so they're like, hey, like you're at the point where, if things go bad, they could go bad quickly. And so we had to like, do we induce? Do we not induce? And so we were like, okay, we're going to go get lunch real quick and we're going to figure it out. And we made a pros and cons list for inducing. And we made a pros and cons list for not inducing. And once we put it all on paper, it was very obvious what the right choice was. And that's what we went with. And so it took all of these complex analytical side and emotional side and fear and excitement, put it down onto a piece of paper, and it was like, oh, this is a very easy decision. And so that's what you have to understand about your brain, is that there's all four of these complex pieces that are moving at the exact same time. How do we make sure that we cannot have one of them that's like taking the microphone from all of the other ones and just completely running the show, but how do we bring in all parts of this brain so that we can use it? Now, let's talk about how to actually balance the four sides of your brain, how to actually get the four parts of your brain to each be stronger. And so for the left thinking side of your brain, if you want to be more analytical and to strengthen that, maybe you are really good at that, but you want to strengthen even more. Well, what you'd want to do is you want to start doing more puzzles. You want to start doing more strategy games. You want to start doing tasks that require logical reasoning and thinking and processing for yourself. Practice writing down, practice organizing, practice planning activities that involve really like linear thinking. Like there's a lot of people out there that are very, very good at being analytical, and there's a lot of people that are listening that are not good at being very analytical. So this is something you can strengthen. It's not like, oh, this part of my brain just doesn't exist. You can start strengthening. I need to do more puzzles. I need to get some more strategy games. I could put them on my phone. I could do whatever it is that's going to strengthen that side of my brain. Do activities that involve numbers. Try to start setting a budget. Try to start playing like math-related games. Some of you are already getting anxiety from thinking about doing that because you're like, oh my God, I'm so not analytical. All right, chill out, bro. You can always get a little bit more analytical if that's something that you want to work on. Okay, so that's the left thinking side of your brain. For the left emotional side of your brain, surround yourself with positive influences. So whether that's books, whether that's music, the people that surround you, so that you can start to strengthen these strong emotions that you want to feel, the positive emotions that you want to feel. Listening to this podcast, this is really good. How can you start to have internal and external positive influences in your life so you can strengthen that positive emotions that you have? Set goals that excite you. Try to tap into that intrinsic motivation. So if you're not very driven or you don't feel like you're very driven, it's not that doesn't exist within you. It just might be a little bit more dormant than everything else. Practice gratitude to start to enhance the ability to focus on positive emotions versus negative emotions, or what is it you don't want. Okay, so that's the left side of your brain. The right side of your brain, let's go to the right thinking side. So I would try to do more hobbies like drawing, like writing, playing a musical instrument. Google and see if there's anybody that does pottery around you so that you can start to get more creative, because it's not that you're creative, it's just maybe you haven't been using that side of your brain since you were 12 years old. Engage in like brainstorming sessions at work so that you can start having free flow ideas without judgment if that's ridiculous or that's not logical, whatever it might be. Try to do more mindfulness, more meditation so that you can start to strengthen that intuition that you have within you as well. Okay, for the right emotional side, which is the negative side, but then also the empathy side, try to be more empathetic to others. Like actively listen to other people speak and imagine their perspective and don't even try to respond. If you really want to get good at this, start seeing people who have the complete opposite ideas as you and try to empathize with them. Start people who have if you're, not religious, listen to religious people and try to imagine their perspective. If you're, one side of a political spectrum, go ahead and listen to other people on the other side of the political spectrum and try to empathize with them. This is a really good way to strengthen the right emotional side and have more empathy. Start to think about past experiences that you've had in your life and how they've shaped you emotionally and the responses. And then try to develop like an emotional resilience through stuff like therapy, through journaling, through stress management techniques. And so those are the four parts of your brain. I want it to be like a mini masterclass for you to really understand that if it feels like there's multiple people talking inside of your head, there kind of are. There's four different parts of your brain that are completely opposite, talking at the exact same time. When you can understand them, and if you want to go back and listen to this episode again so you can understand it even more, write it down, take notes, all of that would definitely help you. But the main thing I want you to get from it is that if you feel like there's multiple people in your brain, no big deal, join the club. We all do. And it's because there's parts of your brain that process things differently. If you want to help yourself kind of take that symphony of voices inside of your head and logic and emotion and all of those things, and you want to kind of be the conductor of that symphony, start writing things down. start journaling more, start writing stuff down and planning out your life, because that allows you to process it a whole lot more. So that is how to activate 100% of your brain. So hopefully you can achieve everything that you want. So if you love this episode, please do me a massive favor. Share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. The biggest way that you can say thanks for everything that we do over here is just to share the podcast. The only way that we grow is from you guys sharing it. So if you've been listening for a while and you've never shared it, do me a favor, man. Just share it. Help us help other people. It is absolutely free for them to learn and grow. And the more people that we can impact, hopefully the better the world becomes. So if you would do that, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Rob Dial. If you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. And if you love this podcast, please do me a favor. Right this second, pull out your phone, go to however you're listening to it right now, and give us a rating and review. Reason why is because the more positive rating reviews that we get, the more that those platforms actually show this and present this podcast to people who have never listened to it before, which enables us to grow, but also enables us to give more love and motivation and mindset techniques to try to help more people throughout the world. So if you would like to pay it forward, please go ahead and do that. Today, we're going to be talking about how to have a breakthrough. For some of you, maybe even a lot of you, this could be a pretty tough episode. It'll be a tough episode as we go through it and I start to talk about how to have a breakthrough. But I promise you this, it will be worth it. And the idea for this podcast came from, people always ask, like, where do your podcast ideas come from? Life, like literally life. Everything that I do gives me ideas for podcasts. And I was watching a movie called Honey Boy, which is a Shia LaBeouf movie. And his dad, it's a crazy movie. It's incredible. It's really good. But there's something that his dad says in that movie that really like hit home with me and made me start thinking a lot. And then I started thinking a lot, and then I started journaling. And then I was like, I got to turn this into a podcast episode, because I really started thinking about this process. And the quote was, "A seed has to completely destroy itself in order to become a flower." A seed has to completely destroy itself in order for it to become a flower. So when you look at who you want to be, the person that, like, when you really close your eyes and you think about all of the potential that you can have, the life that you could have, the relationship you could have, the traveling that you could do, the business that you could have, the money you could have in your bank account, the relationship you could have with your kids, like the most full, optimized version of you, when you look at who you want to be, you're probably going to have to completely destroy who you currently are. And that might scare the shit out of a lot of you. And if it does, fine, let it scare the shit out of you. But you're literally going to have to become a different person. So you think of yourself right now as the seed. And that vision of you that you have in the future is the flower. In order for a seed to become a flower, it has to absolutely destroy itself. There is no bit of that seed that is left when the flower starts to grow. And when the flower is fully bloomed, there is no bit of that seed that exists anymore. Your life will absolutely and cannot change unless you change. Your life will always be the same if you are the same. For some weird freaking reason, I don't get it. People tend to think that their life is just like somehow they're just going to get some big blessing. I could just sit on the couch. I could eat potato chips. I could scroll on Instagram. I can watch Netflix. And one day my life is going to be amazing. One day someone's going to come down and bless me with the life I've always wanted. No, you have to create the life that you want. There is no one there's no knight in shining armor that's going to come and save you from the person that you are, to be able to create the person that you want to be, like to create the life that you want. You cannot change. Your life cannot change. None of these things can change unless you go, you know what? I got to be the person to do it. Sorry, there's going to be no knight in shining armor coming down on the white stallion that's going to help you create the life that you want. Your life and everything around you is based off of what you have done in the past and who you were in the past. We blame everybody else but ourselves. Oh, it's their fault. Oh, I don't have enough time to create the life that I want, as if other people get more than 24 hours. I don't have enough time. Oh my God, look at all the children that I have. I can't do that. I've got these children I've got to feed. Oh, I'd be different if my parents weren't such assholes. I'd be different if they wouldn't have been so nice to me. I'd be different if my parents weren't so mean to me. I'd be different if, I was older. I'd be different if I was younger. Oh, time has passed. I'm too old to be able to do this thing. And we look around and we try to blame everything externally outside of us instead of actually looking at ourselves, putting the mirror in front of ourselves and saying, you are the one who has to change. There is no one that is going to change your life except for you. And sometimes there has to be a full-on breakdown to have a breakthrough. You have to break down to the core of who you, literally break apart all of the pieces that you thought you were and how you act and, I'm this way because of this, and this is just part of my personality. This is how I am. Sometimes you have to have a full-on breakdown. It doesn't have to be a mental breakdown, but I mean like a breakdown of who you are in order to have a breakthrough. When you're at a breakdown, when you're at the point where you feel like it's rock bottom, that is the best chance for you to now change your life. And sometimes it's easier to make a change in your life when you are at rock bottom than when things are just going pretty well. Like when I think back to when I was at my rock bottom and I was living off of pasta for 2 months and I was 5 months behind on my car payment, that was easy to change from because that situation sucked so much. I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here. That was very easy to change from. But I can also think about when I had the opportunity, I was making a couple $100,000 a year, and I had the opportunity to leave that to be able to start this business that I have now. It was a lot harder to make that change than it was to go from rock bottom to a little bit better and a little better and a little bit better. It's kind of wild. And so a lot of you listening, your life is pretty good. It's all right. You might get a couple days of vacation each year. You might make pretty decent money. Might have a pretty cool little house and pretty cool little car and a nice relationship. But you want so much more. You want to, not just more materialistic things. I mean, so much more as far as experiences, as far as love, joy, happiness, peace, all of those things. You're going to have to start to break some things and destroy some things in order to create that. But there's one really big issue, and that's that thing that's in between your ears. It's your mind. The human mind resists change. Your subconscious will always resist change. You will always resist change in some sort of way because it means that you have to destruct who you currently are in order to make something different. And to change who you are, that is a threat to the human mind. No way. No. Do anything else except for change. Anything. Have a cigarette, watch some Netflix, smoke a bowl, have a shot of tequila, drink a glass of wine, scroll on your phone, talk to someone else, go for a walk, do anything but actually change what needs to change. Your brain will try to figure out all the different things to keep you busy so that you don't have to actually do the thing that really truly matters, which is change, to deconstruct, to reconstruct, because change is a threat to the human mind. So your mind will give you all of these reasons why you got to do something different. You won't die, but pieces of your old self have to die. Think about that for a second. Like, you won't physically die, but pieces of your old self have to die. I'm in the process of reading this book right now, and he's talking about death and how so many people are afraid of death. And the reason why they're afraid of death is because death and life are on the same coin. Like if you flip a coin, you got heads and you got tails. You can't have heads without tails. You can't have tails without heads. You can't have death without life, and you can't have life without death. And why so many people are afraid of death is because they actually aren't even truly living. Think about that for a second. Waking up and feeling anxious and feeling stressed and feeling like you're not where you want to be and judging yourself and talking down to yourself, all of those things, that's not living. That isn't living. It's not even close to living. So why are we afraid of death? Well, because we're actually afraid of life. We're afraid of, if we're afraid of truly being the person that we want to be and creating everything that we want, then we're also going to be afraid of death. It's the same coin. And then the other thing he goes on and says is, in order to fully live, you're going to have to die every day. Not physically die, but psychologically and spiritually die every single day. So if the reason why you're afraid of death is because you're afraid of life and you're not fully living right now. So in order to live fully every single day, you must also die every day. There's a piece of you that has to die off. There's parts of you that have to die off. Once again, it's not physical death. It's not mean like die and then there's no more you. What I mean by it is there's psychological death that has to come What I mean by that is that you won't die, but pieces of your old self have to die. That anxiety has to die. That judgment has to die. That self-pity has to die. That blaming other people has to die. You have to fucking kill parts of yourself in order to build the parts of yourself that you want. You can't say yes to one thing and without saying no to something else. If you're going to say yes to being a more loving person, you're also going to have to say no to the person who is judgmental, who is judgmental to other people, but also to yourself, that also talks shit to yourself. You have to realize that. There's parts of us that need to die off all of the time. And we have to be okay with the purge, and okay with the purge, and okay with the purge. You know, if I think back like myself, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago. I have actually, when I think back to the point where I was at my lowest point in my life, the Rob that was back October 2010 in Fort Lauderdale in the one-bedroom apartment, no furniture in the house except for a bed, living off of pasta for 2 months, and literally sitting there and being 5 months behind on my car payment and begging them not to repossess my Audi. I'm not the same. I have literally and figuratively killed that person. That person is dead. There's no bit of that Rob that still exists. I have destroyed that person. But from the ashes like a phoenix, I've rebuilt myself into the person I wanted to be. So if you're going to build yourself into the person that you, and mind you, let me say this, I'm not perfect. So I'm still not the person that I can be. There's still more that needs to die off that I'm slowly finding every single day. And I don't expect to just finally be at that destination at some point in time in my life. I see this as like a birth and death process forever, probably until the day where I actually really, truly do die, right? So I don't see this as like, I see this whole thing as a journey, not just like a moment where it's going to finally be like, oh, look at me, I made it. That'd be awesome, right? I don't see it as a made it ever. But I had to find the parts of myself that I identify with and completely get rid of some of them and figure out what needed to change. And when I needed to change something, I built a new version of myself. You, hopefully, are not the same person that you were 10 years ago. Hopefully, you're a better version of yourself. Now, not everybody's going to be a better version of themselves, but hopefully you are a better version of yourself. But when you look at who you used to be, if you're a better version of yourself, there were parts of yourself that you had to kill off. You had to take it behind into the backyard and, shoot it. It had to be gone. You had to get rid of that self-pity and blaming other people and not stepping up and not following through and being a lazy POS. You had to get rid of all of those things. Life is about destroying the old version of yourself in order to make way for the new version of yourself. Knocking down an old building that's decaying, that's not up to code, where the electricity is coming out of the wall, there's rats everywhere. You got to knock that building. Sometimes it's just that building's it's too far gone. You got to knock it down in order to make space to build a new building. But what's really hard is it's our identity. Like when we think that we have to kill out a part of ourselves, our identity gets really afraid. Because if we don't have ourselves, if we don't have our identity, who are we? Because we've built ourselves into thinking that we are this person every single day. And so we think we're this person. So it's really scary to think that I can wake up tomorrow and be a completely different person. I can literally be a completely different person today. I don't know how many times I said this on the podcast, probably a couple hundred. But one of my favorite quotes is Alan Watts. It says, you're under no obligation to be who you were 5 minutes ago. You can decide to be a different person right now. You can. And when you look at personal growth, you have to lose yourself in order to find yourself. So you have to find the parts of yourself that you don't want anymore, that you don't enjoy, in order to find the parts of yourself that you do want and you do want to create. You can't strengthen a part of yourself without finding the part of yourself that's the complete opposite of that part of yourself that you want to strengthen and kill it off and get rid of it. You have to let go of who you think you are in order to build yourself into who you truly want to become. And let me just say something I think people don't really think about as much, is you might have to mourn the old version of yourself. The same way that when somebody dies, you mourn them, right? There might be a grieving process of who you used to be, because change is not easy, but it is necessary. When you're happiest, when you are at your happiest, it's usually because you feel like you're progressing in life. Tony Robbins always says this: progress equals happiness. When you feel like you're progressing, you're at your happiest. And so when you feel like you're progressing, what that actually means is that there's parts of yourself that you're letting go of. You are stepping into new parts of yourself, but you're also letting go of other parts of yourself. I've never seen someone who has real, true progression in their life who was unhappy. Usually when someone is unhappy, they feel stagnant. When someone feels like they're not enough and they're not going the way they want to, that's usually where unhappiness comes from. But when someone's progressing and they're reading and they're improving and they're having more fun and they're having more happiness and better relationships and they're going to conferences to help themselves with their personal development or with getting good at real estate investing, whatever it is, and they're progressing, very rarely do you find someone that's unhappy. So you have to realize there's a version of you in the future that is the flower. There is. It's there and it's waiting for you and it is your true absolute potential. But in order for you to become that flower, you're going to have to completely destroy parts of yourself. And I'll go back to the very first thing I said at the beginning of this podcast episode. A seed has to completely destroy itself in order for it to become a flower. You just have to make the decision of what needs to go, what needs to stay, what you need to create, and what you need to strengthen. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission, make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have. Let me stop before you go any further. I always say it at the end of the episode, and people always ask, like, why do you say that? Because we have hundreds of thousands of people listen to this podcast. Imagine if every single one of you went out today and decided to do something for somebody else. How much better would the world be if you did that every single time you listen to this podcast? It would be massively better. So when I say it, I'm not just saying it for the hell of it. I'm not saying it for just shits and giggles. Go out and make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to teach you how to make money online. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm just going to give you more ideas so that you can go out there and figure out a way to have alternative ways to make money and bring in more into your bank account. Let's dive in. I want to open up your mind because we have this beautiful thing that's called the internet. And I don't think most people are using it to the capacity that they could. And about 3 years ago, I did a version of this podcast episode. And I like to put one out every 18 months or so and just talk about any updates, how the internet has changed, all of that. And I got a message after about a year after the very first time I ever put this episode out and talked about how to make money online. And this is what the message said. I'll read it to you. It's from my Instagram. It says, "Hi, Rob. I'm unsure if you'll see this, but it's 1 year since I listened to that one episode about making money online and I'm choosing to put in my notice. Since then, I've grown a 7-figure business, written a best-selling book, hosted sold-out shows in London, LA, New York, Toronto, and New Zealand, got a 2-page feature in Vogue, featured in Business Insider, BBC, Oxford Women in Business, got a slot on a national radio and weekly column in my country, New Zealand, and been paid 5 figures to speak at events and helped over 4,000 students worldwide through our course. I have had children and adults stop me on the street and thank us for the work that we do. None of this would have happened if your episode didn't push me to believe in myself and create change, and I knew that I had inside of me. 1,000,000 times over, thank you." So I'm telling you that not to toot my own horn at all. It's because I actually really didn't do shit. I just made an episode that said, hey, there's many ways to make money online. You should go for it. And this is a great example of somebody who listened to it and then made over $1 million in the next 12 months and had all of these accomplishments. And so I get this message all the time from people where they're like, how do I make money online? How do I grow an online business? What exactly should I do? And I'm not going to give you a direct answer, but I'm just going to try to give you a ton of suggestions. Because one thing that I realize is that now that I've been in the business of online businesses and marketing, and I've met tons of people that do tons of different things, is that no matter what you're interested in, I've seen people make money online in the craziest of ways. And one of the ways that I saw that's actually a crazy one, I spoke about it like 2 months ago on the podcast. There's this guy on YouTube that makes so much money on YouTube, and he has a 100,000 gallon vivarium, which is not a terrarium. I guess it's something different. I can't give you the definition of the difference, to be honest with you. But he makes these epic videos of this giant vivarium, which is basically an aquarium that he puts non-aquatic animals in. And he has it's this beautiful cinematic shooting, and he makes it dramatic, and he puts in spiders into it, and he puts in a mini alligator into it, and then he puts in crickets, and he basically creates this giant, I guess it's kind of tiny compared to the world, a tiny ecosystem, but it takes up his entire living room. And he has millions of subscribers. It's I think it's called Ants of Canada or something like that. And when I did the math, as far as how much money this guy's making off of his YouTube based off of how many millions and millions and millions of views. He's making, according to my math, at least $500,000 a year off of his YouTube views, which shows you he literally has an obsession with his vivarium. And because he's so good at film and he's so good at dramatizing it, millions upon millions of people are being entertained and watching it. And so it's not about what I think you should do or what some other person thinks you should do. It's what are you interested in? Because if you're interested in it, there's a really good chance there's other people interested in it in this world. And so the one thing I want you to know about me is I want, if somebody doesn't like what they do, if someone likes what they do, I don't want them to break out of the rat race. But if someone doesn't like what they do, which according to statistics is about 85% of people, I want them to break out of the rat race. I want them to find something that they love to do, because the majority of your waking hours is spent doing something in some sort of job. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you should be doing something different. And I always say there's a million ways to make $1 million online. The biggest problem though is that most of us are raised before the internet and making money on the internet was a thing. We were raised by parents who, weren't able to make money online because it didn't exist. And so the paradigm is starting to shift, where we used to, when I was raised, I'm 38 years old right now. When I was raised, we didn't have the internet. The internet came in when I was a kid. My mom didn't have the internet. And so I was always raised, go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a job, all of that. The paradigm has completely started to shift, where it's like, you don't really need to go to school anymore. You can if you like, but you really don't need to. And the school system, what it does though, is it's been created to make you a worker, not a business owner. You get told what to do. You have to sit in a chair. If you want to pee, you have to raise your hand and ask for permission. You have to wait for the bell before you can leave. You have to walk into school at a certain time. You have to leave at a certain time, exactly like a 9-to-5 job. And when you look at college, what's the point of college? The point of college is to get a job. And if you think about it, why don't you just go out there and figure out how to make money on your own if you don't enjoy what you're doing? And so the whole paradigm is starting to shift, where it's not just time to work equals money earned. It's like, hey, how can I actually start to figure out other ways of making money? And maybe you do enjoy what you do, but you want to make more money. And so you're just like, I'm going to create a side hustle on the internet. And so I'm going to give you a ton of different ideas. What I really want to do, and all I really want to do, is open up your minds to there might be something different. That's really what it is. If you work in accounting and you're not really enjoying being an accountant anymore, there's options. I'm not saying you have to quit your accounting job today and then go to like an internet marketing conference. What I want you to do is I want you to be like, hey, what else is there that I could do? And then just start going on a journey. For me, my journey started in 2012. I had worked, traditional jobs. And then in 2012, I quit my job. I went and backpacked Europe for 3 months, and I started meeting people who had kind of like alternative lifestyles. Some people would work for 6 months, save up, quit their job, travel for a year, come back, find a random job, save for 6 months, quit their job, go for a year, 3 months, whatever it was. And that's just kind of how they lived their life. And I never wanted to like quit, get a new job, quit, get a new job. So I was like, I need to figure out some sort of way to make money. What is the way? And I started thinking about it, and I started researching it over and over and over again. I was watching different things that would pop up on like businessinsider.com and seeing how that works. And then the very first time I made any money online was I had this podcast, and there was no way to make money in podcasts back in 2015 when I started it. And I want you to know this, once you make your first dollar online, it's over, because you're like, holy shit, this is crazy. And back in 2015, Amazon and Audible had this thing. And Audible would give you a free trial. And basically I would say, hey, if you want a free trial, go to this website and sign up for a free trial. And Amazon would pay $15 for every single person that you got to sign up for a free trial. It cost them nothing. They got paid, and I got paid $15. And I remember one morning I woke up, and while I was asleep, I made $15. And that was it. It was only $15. It wasn't like I could retire, but I made $15, and I was like, oh, holy shit, this is real money. And I just made it while I was asleep. I was like, this is crazy. That means that there's other ways of doing this. And then so, I started going to, and I've told this story before, but the way I kind of really started to break out of it was I was like, I wonder if there's any meetups or networking groups that are in Austin that are other people that make money online. So I Googled like internet marketing or online marketing Austin. And this event popped up. It was a monthly event. It's called Internet Marketing Party. I've become good friends now with the guy who owns Internet Marketing Party. He's been running it for like 15, 16 years, something like that. And it was just a monthly event, get together, and they would have one speaker come in. And I remember the very first time that I went, the speaker was a guy who was 1 year younger than me and had been making over $1 million online for the past 10 years. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's a thing? I didn't even realize that was a thing. And so I met him and I talked to him and he was like a normal guy. And I was like, he's so normal. Like if he could do it, I could do it. I just have to figure out what he's doing. And then I met this other guy, this really shy guy, and he was incredibly, incredibly shy. And I remember that I was sitting there and talking to him and I was like, so what do you do? And he's like, oh, I run Facebook ads for companies. I was like, that's cool. I was like, how's that going for you? And he started talking and he started opening up a little bit. And I found out that he was making every month, and he's like one of the shyest people I've ever met, anywhere between $200,000 to $300,000 a month. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how is this real? And I just got open. And then I met another guy his name was Ian, and Ian was a copywriter, and he taught people how to write copy, how to send emails, how to do blogs, all of that. And he was making a bunch. So I was like, this is nuts. Like, I just went to an event. I met 3 people that just blew my mind. And that's really what I want to do, is just to give you guys options for what could possibly be something you could do. And then you can go out and research and see what it is that you want. Because I would love to get another message a year from today from 2, 3, or 5 people that have been listening to this episode. And they're like, I just opened up my business a year ago and I'm making 6 figures or I'm making 7 figures or whatever it might be. And so I'll give you some examples of people that I know personally and how they make money online. Okay. I know quite a few people that are Facebook ads masters. They run other people's Facebook ads. Now that's an acquired skill set. All of these basically are acquired skill sets. So you'd have to come in fresh and then you have to learn the skill set. And then you just get really good at it and you can make money doing it. So I know people that run other people's Facebook ads. I know people that are copywriters, like I just said. So they write articles, they send emails, they write copy for Instagram reels, for landing page videos. I know people that make YouTube videos and make a bunch of money making YouTube videos as well. I know people who make money doing coaching. That's what I do. I teach people how to grow on coaching businesses. I know people who have Shopify stores. One of my good friends has a business on Shopify, and they do about $5 million a year, and they've been doing that for quite a while now. I have a friend who started an insurance company online. I have people that I know that have Etsy stores, and they sell jewelry online and on Etsy stores. They sell crystals online on Etsy stores. I know people who make videos on Facebook and make Facebook ad revenue. I have a friend who makes about $37,000 a month on Facebook ad revenue, which means that they just make videos that are so entertaining, people watch them, Facebook puts ads in them, and then they pay them for their ads. I know people that do sponsorships, and they do them on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I know somebody who runs a clothing brand. I know someone who runs a clothing brand and he makes all of these different clothing for other influencers. And I know one influencer, I won't name the name, one of the biggest influencers in the world, and he only does drops. And so about every 2 months, he'll do a clothing drop, which is just, hey, we've got a limited amount, and he'll make about $1 million every time he does a drop. And it's sold out over 24 hours. I know people that sell courses online for photography, for how to be a coach, how to grow your business, how to run Facebook ads, how to do affiliate marketing, all kinds of different courses. I know people that do affiliate marketing. I know a lot of people that do podcasting, obviously. Like I said, writing emails for other people. I know 3 friends specifically who had supplement companies and sold their supplement companies. Every one of those 3 friends, and I hope I don't sound like this, not my intention to be like, oh my God, look at me, I know people. That's stupid. That's not what I'm trying to do. I want to open your mind to it and I'm trying to blow your mind to be like, oh my God, there's way more than I thought. I know 3 separate guys who own supplement companies and all sold their supplement companies. And when they cashed out of it, brought in over $100 million each, which is insane. So selling supplements, I know quite a few people who do that. I know people who do jump rope courses. I know people that do harmonica courses. I know people that teach, I have a friend that teaches people how to dunk and sells courses on how to grow your abs and your hamstrings so that you can dunk. I have few people that I know that sell on Amazon. I have one friend that I know that teaches people how to sell on Amazon. I know people that do freelancing on Upwork and Fiverr. I know somebody that does interior design in 3D that does it on Upwork and Fiverr. I know people that do social media management where they manage other people's social medias. I know people that do YouTube. I know people that do use AI to write books for Kindle, and they just write tons of books a year and they make money doing it that way. I know people that do consulting. So they are really good at one thing. They have applied knowledge on something, and then they teach other people who want to get good at that. So they do consulting with it. I know people that are freelance writers. I know people that are ghost writers. And so really what it comes down to is what are you interested in? And I don't think that I want to give you any answers. I just want to give you questions. And the questions are like, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? Is it, if you love what you do, fine, you can definitely keep doing that. But there are a million ways to make a little bit of money online, just some extra cash, to make a lot of money online. And, the way that I've met all of these people is by putting myself out there. I am an introvert. I prefer not to go to networking events. But when I was getting into this industry, I was like, I need to meet new people. I need to put myself out there. I need to meet new people. I need to find other people. And so, like I said, I started going to Internet Marketing Party. One of my biggest mentors I ever met was at an event in Orlando like 6 years ago, which is put on by ClickFunnels, which is a landing page company and funnels company. And it was called theirs was actually called Funnel Hackers Live. And I met him. He sat next to me. He was wearing a watch that I thought was cool. I love watches. We started talking about watches. I was like, what do you do? He told me what he did. He said, what do you do? I was like, oh my God, I do almost the exact same thing. We became good friends. His company was way more successful than mine at the time. So I just learned from him and I grew from being around him and we became good friends. So there's, if you want to go to events, I recommend going to events. There's a couple events that are really big that, teach how to make money online, and you can meet tons of people that make all of different ways to make money online. There's Traffic and Conversion Summit, which usually happens in San Diego. There's Funnel Hackers Live. They go all over the place. There's Social Media Examiner. I think they still do a summit. There's other people's webinars where they teach you what they do. They might try to sell you something at the end, but they do at least teach you what they do. I would say more than anything else, I just recommend that you just open your mind to it. Because with your reticular activating system, once your mind is open to it, you're going to start noticing opportunities in people and places, and you'll start meeting people and going, oh man, I should have a conversation with this person. They do something online. Maybe I should go grab coffee with them. I will say this, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. Sometimes you do have to, spend money in a course. Sometimes you do have to spend money to go to get a ticket to a conference, and you've got to fly to the conference, and you've got to do a hotel. But, what I would recommend is that you go and start searching for, the city that you live in, for the country that you live in, and just put online marketing. And, there's websites like digitalmarketer.com, who's run by one of the best digital marketers in the world, a guy named Ryan Dice. There's socialmediaexaminer.com. There's ClickFunnels that does it. I just want to open your mind to it, where it might not be, you might not make your first dollar today. It might not be for 2 years. It might not be for 3 years. I started getting into it in 2012. I didn't make my first dollar online until like January of 2016. So you're talking about 3.5, 4 years, whatever it was. I started meeting people in 2015 that were doing it. And so what I really want to do is open up your mind and have you start thinking differently. Have you start thinking, maybe you don't like being an accountant anymore. Maybe you don't want to be an engineer anymore. Maybe you don't want to be a nurse or a teacher anymore. There's options. There's things that you can do. And I just really want to open up your minds to it to try to make some sort of change. What I do is I teach people how to grow coaching businesses online. And there's that's an option. There's just many ways to do it. I want to open up your mind to it. And I want you to realize that where you are doesn't always have to be the way that the place that you stay forever. So I hope that in 12 months, I will get more messages on Instagram from you guys listening to this episode right now about how you listen to this, open up your mind, and start a successful online business. If it happens, message me on Instagram, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories. Tag me in it. Like I said, it's Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. The only way this podcast grows is from you guys sharing it. So I greatly appreciate you every single time that you share it. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day and you go out and start your businesses. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Dial. If you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast episode. And if you're out there and you love this podcast and you want some extra tips, tricks, motivation, all of that stuff, go to YouTube and go ahead and follow me on there. We have a ton of videos, over 400 videos that we have on YouTube to help you get better and improve. All you have to do is go to YouTube, type my name in, Rob Dial, and it will automatically pop up. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to stop comparing yourself, and I'm going to talk to you about why you comparing yourself is actually killing a lot of joy in your life. And we live in a world where we can see everything that someone else is doing at all moments. And it's interesting because I grew up obviously in this tech world. I grew up before all of this tech came out, before there was Instagram and all of that stuff, and lived a life before then. But I'm also here now and I create a lot of content, I put it out there, and I actually see a lot of people's joy being stolen from their life because they're too busy comparing themselves with everybody else. They're comparing themselves, they're comparing their body to somebody else's body who's been working out for 10 years straight, and then they get down on themselves. They're comparing their business that's 3 weeks old to someone else who's been running the business for 3 years and trying to figure out why they're not where they are, the other person is at this point in time. We live in a world where we can constantly see everything that everyone else is doing, and we compare ourselves. We see where they are. Oh my gosh, they traveled to this amazing thing. I haven't left town in 3 weeks. What am I doing with my life? We can see what they're wearing. We can see what they're eating. We can see who they're with. And if you spend enough time on social media, I bet that you compare yourself sometimes to some people. And now comparison itself is not necessarily a bad thing. There is a lot of good in comparison. You know, if you think about comparing, you can compare how fast a car is going compared to your speed to see if you should turn or not. That is where it becomes beneficial. Our ancestors could compare the size of an animal that was running at them to figure out if it was something to be afraid of. And if it was something to be afraid of, they could compare how fast it is moving compared to how fast they can move and decide, do I run or do I climb the nearest tree? And they could compare the speed of things that were happening, the size of things that were happening. And so that itself is very beneficial. We can compare the food that's on our plate to the size of our stomach and go, oh yeah, that's probably a little bit more than I need. So comparison does have some beneficial uses, but when you're not paying attention to your brain and it's just running amok like it normally is, and you're looking at somebody else's life on Instagram, that's when it starts to get bad. Especially when you can look at someone else's life on Instagram and think, oh my God, they're so happy. They have such a great relationship. They have so much money. They're so successful. When in reality, what we're seeing from somebody else is the highlights of their life, not the lowlights of their life. And so one thing that is important to realize is that every single person is on a different path, right? So people can look, like people will come up to me all the time and they're like, Rob, how do I have a podcast that's successful like yours? And I'm like, well, do like 1,400 episodes and come back to me in 8 years and let's see where you are. So if you're like on, I don't know, podcast episode 3, you can't really compare podcast episode 3 to somebody else's 1,400th podcast because sometimes we just got to go through each chapter of our life. And one of my favorite phrases that has to do with this is you can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. And so if you're on your 3rd podcast episode and you're like, I don't feel like I'm good. I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I don't feel like this is growing. And then you're looking at somebody else's podcast who's been doing it for a long time. Yeah, of course they have more experience. They have more time. They have more under their belt than you. And, you know, it's funny because I started taking boxing lessons, right? And today was the second boxing lesson that I did. This guy comes over to my house. We've been doing boxing lessons and stuff. And I find myself fumbling around because I'm first off, I'm sore as shit in random places I've never been sore before because I'm moving my body in ways I've never moved. Like I'm sore in between my freaking knuckles, right? Like such a weird place to be sore. And when he's talking about, okay, 1, 2, 3, and he's talking about a jab and he's talking about a right hook and uppercut and all of these different things, he does it and it's like a snap and it looks so effortless. But he's been doing it for 15 years. And so I can look at myself and look at him and be like, well, I'll never be as good as him. And he's so much better. Maybe this isn't for me. Or I can go, you know what? This is my chapter 1. Like I'm not even on chapter 1. I'm still reading the introduction of this book. This guy is probably finished his book and he's on to his next book. And so The quote that goes along with this is, you'll never be a graceful master if you don't allow yourself to be a foolish beginner. And so do I look like a giraffe that was just birthed and is trying to figure out how to walk? I do. Does he look like he's been doing this for a long time? He does. But I can never get to looking as graceful as he does unless I go through the foolish beginner stage. Most people, we're just afraid to go through the foolish beginner stage. And we think that just because of the fact that, oh my gosh, I took 2 boxing lessons, I should be a fucking expert. Or, you know what? I've been going to the gym for 3 weeks. Why am I not in shape yet? Or, you know what? I've been running my business now for 2 months. Why am I not a millionaire yet? And, an example is like, if somebody's overweight, they can't compare their body to somebody on Instagram who's been working out for 7 years. Like, all you have to do is just go, I need to show up every single day. And if I'm better than I was yesterday, and I take this path and I just continue on this path for as long as possible, eventually I will be as far along as they are. So if someone's overweight now, it doesn't mean that they'll always be overweight. But if they start to make changes and they take the right daily actions, they could eventually, if they fast forward 7 years, have the same body as that person. But if we look at someone on Instagram now, and we compare ourselves to them, and we make ourselves feel bad about the fact that we don't look like them, we'll never actually motivate ourselves to take the action that we need to create the life that we want to. And so maybe you just started. That's okay. You can't expect to have the body that you want already, but you can compare your body to your body yesterday. If you have been working out for a month, can you hop on the scale and see how your body has changed? Can you think about how your body has changed when you look in the mirror? Can you think about how maybe your body has more energy? And so instead of comparing ourselves to somebody else, we've got to learn to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. That's what we need to do. That's the only comparison that we should ever make when it comes to our lives. Am I better than I was yesterday? Do I have more knowledge than I did yesterday? Do I feel like I'm taking steps in the right direction for my health better than I was yesterday? Do I feel like I'm reading more and my intellect is growing more than it was, I know more today than I did yesterday when I went to bed? That's what we should start comparing ourselves. Do I have more money in my bank account than I did last week or last month or 2 months ago? So instead of being like, well, why am I not a millionaire yet? I should be a millionaire at this point. Look at your bank account 6 months ago. Do you have more money in your bank account than you did 6 months ago? If so, that's a great comparison. You're getting better. You're saving more. I remember when I was younger, when I was like 21, it's crazy to think of how you get older and you realize that you don't know shit the older that you get. Like, I thought I knew everything when I was 21. I'm 36 years old now, so fast forward 15 years and I think I don't know anything. But back then I thought I knew everything. And so I would be like, man, I'm 21. I'm working so hard. I'm putting in like 100 hours a week. Why am I not a millionaire yet? And I was looking at all these people that were like millionaires and they were successful. And I used to live, when I was 21, I lived down in Fort Lauderdale, and I lived right by, Fort Lauderdale. There's a ton of money. Palm Beach, there's a ton of money. I lived right by Boca Raton. Boca Raton, there's a ridiculous amount of money. And I was comparing myself to all of these people who were, they had jets and they had Bentleys and they had Ferraris and they had all of these cool cars and cool life. But I never took a step back until recently, now that I am older, and just realized that things take time. I was 21 comparing myself to guys that were like 63 years old. And it's like, of course they have more than me. Of course they have a different life than me. They've been on this path they're literally 3 times my age is what I could have thought to myself. I think I would have had a lot less stress and anxiety when I was younger if I would have stopped comparing myself to 63-year-old people and started comparing myself to who I was the month before and who I was 3 weeks before and who I was a year before. And so you can't compare yourself to somebody else. The only person you could compare yourself to is you in the past. You can't compare your business that you just started to your friend's business who's been in the industry for 10 years. Yours hasn't had as much time to mature as theirs has. You haven't had as much mistakes as they have. You haven't learned the lessons that you need to learn to get you to where you want to go. But you can compare your business today to where it was 6 months ago or where it was last year. You can compare your body today to where it was 6 months ago. You can compare your knowledge to where you were 6 months ago. You can compare your bank account to where you were 6 months ago. So when you compare, the real question is, when you compare, after you compare, do you feel good or do you feel bad? Okay. If you feel bad, you're probably comparing yourself to other people, or you're comparing yourself to where you think you should be. And the word should is a shame word, just so you know. You are shaming yourself. You're shoulding all over yourself is what you're doing. Oh, I should be this, I should be this, I should be this. No, because if you should be that, you would already be that. And rarely when we compare do we feel good. Because we're comparing ourselves to other people, which we can't do because we're not other people. We haven't had the same life circumstances that they have. And we can't compare ourselves to where we think we should be because that's completely unrealistic. Rarely does comparison make you feel good. Comparison usually brings on the feeling of lack. I don't have as much as they do. I'm not as happy as they are. I'm not as far along as I should be. And usually that's what it'll bring on, lack, but also what it tends to do is it tends to bring on jealousy. And we get jealous of other people. And lack and jealousy are not, lack and jealousy are not magnetic energy. Neither one of those are magnetic energies. When I lack something, I'm not attracting something to me. When I'm jealous of somebody else, I'm not attracting that thing to me. So by getting jealous and by feeling the feeling of lack, you're actually pushing away what it is that you truly want. So we need to learn when we look at somebody and we want to feel the feeling of like, damn it, I wish I had that body. Damn it, I wish I was on that trip. Damn it, I wish that I was driving that car. Damn it, I wish that I had that business. Damn it, I wish that I had as much money as they do. Instead of comparing ourselves and feeling lack and feeling jealousy because we're not where they are, we can actually congratulate that person and be like, you know what? Hell yeah, good for you. You're doing well in life. And you know what? If you start to congratulate people in your mind, out loud, to them in their face if you see them, you will actually start to attract more of what you want. It's a more magnetic energy, even if it's just by yourself and you never say it directly to that person, right? I used to get jealous when I'd see people with nice cars and see people with nice houses and see people traveling the world. And now when I see people, even when I see them on Instagram, I'm like, fuck yeah, man, good for you. Good for you for doing that. That's awesome because I know that in order to get to where they were, there was a lot of stuff they had to get through. There was a lot of things, a lot of crap that they had to go through to get to where they are. Hell yeah, good for you for achieving what you've achieved. You got a freaking Lamborghini? Good for you, man. That's probably something you've been wanting for a long time. How awesome is that? So we have to learn to stay in our own lane, right? We have to learn that you have your own lane that you're in. I remember that a few years ago I was doing psychedelics. I'll say that. I won't say any further. I won't say where I was, what I was doing, any of that stuff. But I was on a psychedelic journey a few years ago. And one of the things that came very clear to me in this psychedelic journey was I am on my own path. The universe has made a lane for Rob Dial and Rob Dial only. I am the only one that can get in this lane. I cannot get into anybody else's lane. Anybody else cannot get into my lane. I have my own lane. I have a journey that the universe or God or life has designed for me, and I'm not in competition with anybody. The universe made me my own lane. I just need to follow this lane. I just need to follow the path that I'm supposed to be going. And I believe that you, if you're listening to this, every single person has their own lane as well. And so if we're so focused on other people's lane and where they are, we're not going to get to where we want to be. It's like that really famous picture like 5 or 6 years ago when the Olympics were happening and Michael Phelps was swimming and he ended up winning gold, but they took a picture. And one of the guys that was swimming, he was right behind him. You can see him mid-stroke. He's actually looking at Michael Phelps and he ended up losing to Michael Phelps. He was so focused on where Michael Phelps was that he didn't put 100% focus into where he was and he ended up losing. And so really what it comes down to is like swimming your journey, staying in your lane, staying on your path. And when you see people succeeding, being like, man, that's amazing. I can't wait till I get there. That's amazing. Good for you. There's probably a lot of things you had to go through to get there. I believe that you have your own lane. You just have to follow for you what feels right. And then you have to realize that things just take time. Like that's the one thing that I've realized that as I get older, slow and steady wins the race. That's it, man. Slow and steady wins the race. Am I putting one foot in front of the other on my path that I'm supposed to be going on? Did I get one step further, one step closer today? Did I get one step closer today? Did I get one step closer today? And I realized that things take time. Like I wanted to be so successful when I was so young. And as I get older, I'm just like, things are going to happen as things are supposed to happen. And I don't know about you, but when I start going through that mental thought process, the whole feeling in my body is just like, okay, I don't have to be so uptight. I don't have to be so focused. And so why am I not there? I should be further. And it's just such a restrictive energy. You know, when I used to see people that were millionaires, like, why don't I have that? It's just like, you know, over the past few years, and I got to places that I wanted to be and doing things that I wanted to do, I just realized I wasn't there yet. Things take time, and my time had not come to be that time yet. And so when you see people that have something that you have, a lot of times they might be 15 to 20 years further than you, right? You still have a lot. You still have so many things you can be grateful for. And with your goals, you just have to realize they only take three things. They take direction, they take action, and they take time. Are you heading in the right direction to achieve your goals? Is what you're doing right now taking you closer to or further away from your goals? So are we heading in the right direction? Okay. If we are, then each day, am I taking the right action to start to get there? Am I one step closer to my goal that I've been trying to work for? Am I heading in the right direction? Yes. Am I taking the right action? One step, and just getting 1% better every single day. And then time. Time is going to work itself out the way that's supposed to work itself out. If you think about it, how crazy would it be to go to the gym, you know, and leave the gym and be like, look down and be like, what the hell? I don't have a six-pack yet. Like, we would all be like, that's wild. Nobody would ever think that. Why do we think that for everything else in our life? We think that in our bank account, in our relationships, in our businesses, all of that stuff. We need to make sure we're heading in the right direction. We need to make sure we're taking the right action, and we just need to let time work itself out. So what you have to do is realize that you're running your own race. You're in your own lane, and you've got to stop comparing yourself, and you've got to stop being jealous, and you've got to start congratulating. So that's what I got for you for this episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. I love to see you guys tagging and putting where you are and during a workout or going for a run or listening to it with your kids, whatever it is. I love to see you guys do that. So if you do that, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Also, it allows the podcast to be able to grow and more people to be able to find it who have never listened to it before. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.